players, so just so you know, this is like take 19 for me. I keep messing this up, so I'm just gonna go for it. This is down and dirty. This is what I need you to bring to return to play within COVID-19 guidelines. So if you're one of my players, everything you're about to hear, I want you to do. I'm gonna tell you what some things are mandatory or required, that means you have to do them, and some things that are optional, which I'm suggesting you do or I think would be helpful. If you're not one of my players, I still think you might find this video helpful as a starting point to get ready for your team sessions. As always, remember your coach is the boss and what they say goes. So if you're not one of my players, just take this as a suggestion, as something that might be a good starting point. So what I'm gonna go over is what I want you to have in your go bag or your workout bag for practices. I'm gonna split it into two categories. One is what I want is mandatory, which you have to bring, and the other is optional, things that I'm suggesting you bring. So first and foremost, and I think some of us are now getting used to this, is you're required to have a mask. So either bring a mask to practice or a gaiter or neck cover that you can pull up and have as a mask. One thing I want to speak to about this, and since it's so hot, I'm not sure if this would work with most players, is gaiters go around your neck. You would have to, if you wore a gaiter, you wouldn't have to worry about where to put your mask when you weren't using it. So a gaiter you put on over your neck, you can pull up over your nose and pull down. With the heat and with playing, this might be too hot an option, but I wanted to mention it for players that this might be a good go-to, especially for ones that lose masks or throw them to the side or might not keep them as sterile as possible. So gaiters might be a good option. On both of these, mask or gaiter, I want you to put your name on the inside of them, so without a doubt we know whose they are. The other thing you're gonna need is hand sanitizer with a 70% alcohol concentration rate. So I will always bring a big bottle of hand sanitizer, but I want you guys to have your own for your own purposes before and after practice. But also ideally, I wanna limit those who are using this because we're trying to limit any kind of cross-contamination or touching each other's stuff. So bring your own hand sanitizer, just like with the mask. I want you to put your name on it so we know whose it is. The other thing I want you to bring to every practice, I really want you to make a good habit of bringing a water bottle for yourself. On your water bottle, I want to have your name, okay? Again, every item we bring, I want to have your name on it so we can easily identify whose it goes to. The other thing that's a little different, coming back, returning after COVID-19, is each of my players are going to bring their own ball. So before training and after training, you need to disinfect this. You can do this with a Clorox wipe, spray bleach, or even hydrogen peroxide. So before play, you're gonna need to spray this down and clean it, and after play, spray it down and clean it. I used a little juggling ball. Obviously, you'll have a big ball, and I want you to put your name on it for me. So again, mandatory items to have in your bag would be a mask or a gaiter, or whatever, bandana, whatever you feel comfortable as a cover for a mask, hand sanitizer, a water bottle, and a ball. All these items, I need you to have your name on them so we can easily identify them if somehow they were left behind. We're trying to be extra, extra careful of not having players have each other's gear or accidentally drink from someone's bottle or anything like that. Now let's get into some optional items I think would be handy in your go bag, but you don't have to have. The first one, and it kind of goes hand in hand with three different things, is a little section of tissue paper. Now, the reason why I say this is that many players come to me with nosebleeds or allergy issues or even a little cold. So if your nose is running and you go through tissues a lot, this might be something handy to have. What goes in hand with this are these little, basically like doggy poop bags or diaper bags for little kids. I have many of these handy. You can come get 2 or 3 from me to put them into your bag. But what I would like you guys to do is if any garbage you create during practice, I want you to keep into bags, and at the end of practice, we can throw away in a garbage can or you can bring home. The reason for this is right now with all the COVID-19 guidelines is we need to stay in our set area of play. And if there isn't a garbage can right there, to limit going through other training areas, which we are not supposed to do, this would be a good way for us to not have to go around it. Also, it'll help me not have to have different garbage bags set up, or I myself have to be really good about keeping my hands clean and putting garbage in or tying it or whatever. So basically, just like when you go hiking and they say whatever you take in, you take out, same thing with soccer. I think this would be helpful. So have tissue paper, have a 2 to 3 poop bags to use as your own garbage can. And some of you might not ever use them, but some of you who go through Band-Aids or tissues, these will be very helpful. And it would be very helpful to me, especially not having a wagon full of garbage that I have to glove up and then put everything away, which happened quite a bit last season. The other thing I think would be handy to do is put together some Band-Aids for yourself. So I will have my first aid kit. You're always welcome to my first aid kit. The difference being I am the only one allowed to touch it, or my coach, assistant coach Ariel, is the only one allowed to touch it. So let's say you had like a cut on your finger, not life-threatening or anything, so you'd have to wait if I was in the middle of something. If you didn't want to wait and you already had your own, you could go to your bag and just go ahead and put your Band-Aid on and get right back into the practice without missing much time at all. The only catch I will say is with any of your garbage, a lot of times when players would use my first aid kit last season, they would leave Band-Aids and stuff all over the place. So if you have your own Band-Aids, try and make sure you keep track of your own garbage to take to and from. If you do not have one of these and you know you have garbage, I'd prefer that you let me know and I'll get out a garbage bag for myself and you put it in my wagon in the garbage can than just throwing it in my garbage that I'll find later as I'm putting away my gear. So, optional items, baggies, Band-Aid, tissue paper, clear plastic garbage bag for if it rains. You can put all your gear inside of it. And the other thing I want to mention is sunscreen. So again, it's going to be July, August. It's going to be a little sunnier and hotter than we're used to. I think sunscreen is a good thing to have in your go bag. You'll want to put your name on it just like anything else. And please make sure you do not share yours with anyone else. There's a few reasons for this. One is it's actually considered a medicine and we're supposed to ask permission before we give it to each other. The other is we're trying to limit contact at all of any items between each other and any items touching each other, period. So we can't help each other put on suntan lotion. We can't share it, but something good to have for yourself in your bag. One last comment before I move on is with those of you with asthma, like myself. What I would do is make sure that when you come to session, you put down your backpack, you have your mask out, you have your Purell out, you have your water out, and you keep your albuterol and spacer out at the same time. The reason for this is we're going to be out playing and hopefully not touching each other, hopefully not having contact, but it's probably going to happen from time to time. If in the middle of session you realize, oh, I forgot to use my inhaler, or you feel like you need more, I don't want you touching your bag and touching these items that are going to go into your mouth with dirty hands. So when you get to the field, get your backpack out, lay it flat, make sure your mask is out and secured somewhere safely, or you could just be gently put on your bag. Make sure your hand sanitizer is out and your water is out. And those of us with these, go ahead and put these out, because what I would like to see happen is, say in the middle of practice you need it, you run over, the first thing you touch is your hand sanitizer. Clean your hands really, 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 really good, and then do your puffer. That way, dirty hands are never touching your anything that might go in your mouth or might breathe in at all. So clean as possible. So I just mentioned that. For the rest of the players who aren't asthmatic or don't have any meds to keep out, I still would have your bag out, put your mask on top somewhere safe, have your Purell and water out. That way when you're coming off and off the field, if you happen to have dirty hands, you're not having to dig through your whole bag looking for your Purell to use. So just food for thought as we get to the field. One thing for my players to keep in mind is I am going to actually set up cones for each player to have your gear. They're going to be 6 feet apart. So when we come take water breaks, you literally just stand where your bag is. You won't need a mask up. You won't need to be worried about being too close to each other. But you can talk and it's business as usual. You're just going to be a little bit further away just to keep everyone safer. So just keep in mind as you show up to practice on Mondays and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday this week, look for a cone that doesn't already have a bag on it, and then put your gear there. And then as soon as you come to practice, you can, as we start to play, you can put your mask on your bag to begin. So remember, before practice, pull out your hand sanitizer, put your mask on top of your bag and have your water. Anyone with breathing issues, have your gear out. The other thing I would say that is if it's raining, pop open that big plastic bag, slide your backpack in it, and put the gear that you need on top of your bag, but under the plastic bag. So listen, I'm so excited to get back to play. I know a lot of this might seem a little overwhelming, but this is what we need to do in order to stay safe when we return to the field. One more thing before I forget, and this will be for all players, not just my players, is one of the biggest changes that I think might take a lot of time to get a habit out of, is we have to take our temperature before coming out to training, even myself. So what you're gonna do is every time before you come to practice, you're gonna take your temperature. The temperature that we're looking for that you would need to stay home is 100.4. If you hit 100.4 or more, you need to stay home, even if you're feeling fine. If you feel sick, you need to stay home. If you've been exposed to someone who has COVID-19, I've named a new virus now. You need to let me know so we can talk about possible days you have to stay away from the pitch and staying home to be safe. So again, big change, taking your temperature before each and every practice. If it's 100.4, stay home and let me know that you won't be coming. If you feel sick but have no fever but you feel crummy, stay home. And again, if you've had an exposure to COVID, you have to let me know about that and we'll figure out a game plan. So before you show up to practice, before I even let you play, I am going to ask you, have you taken your temperature? Do you feel sick? If these are any yeses or nos, like no I didn't, you won't be able to play. So that needs to be a habit, and it's most helpful to parents to kind of be on top of that yourself. So maybe find the thermometer in the house, put it by something before practice that will remind you, like here's your water bottle and you have to fill it with water, put it right by the water bottle. Now remember, you want to take your temperature when you haven't had anything in your mouth for like 10 minutes. So no drink of hot or cold water, no gum, no anything like that to get an accurate read. So again, mandatory items: masks, Purell or hand sanitizer, water, and a ball. The suggested items that you don't need to have but I think would be helpful would be sunscreen, little poop bags for garbage bags, own little first aid kit with whatever you want to have in it, and some tissue paper. And again, a plastic bag for when we get one of those summer rains where we're just going to get soaked. So I hope you all found this helpful. I cannot wait to see all the players out in the pitch. Even if you're not on my team and you go by one of my practices, give me a shout out. I love seeing everybody. I'm really excited to return to play. I know this might seem a little stressful or overwhelming. Try not to let it be. Try to just be like, oh, I'm going to take my temperature and I'm going to play soccer like normal. So let's have fun. Let's look forward to our upcoming summer and fall seasons, and let's get after it. Take care, players.